right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Tony Restores TSR Go Green Livestream. We are live. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Sorry we're a little late, making sure we have all these technical difficulties dialed in, which appears to be the case. Let's just double check it here, you know what I mean, guys? Hope you're all having a good Wednesday night. Enjoying your evening. Okay. Let's get started nice and proper here. So just a quick check-in episode for this evening, huh? Not too much crazy stuff on the agenda. Just hanging out, California vibes. You know what I mean? We're going to do these little California honey drops in the background today. That's what we'll do. It's one of my favorite bands. Might as well give them a little shout out. Give them a little love this evening. One of their old live streams that I'm a big fan of. Back during the COVID days when we were all locked up. These goofy fellas here, we'll give you a quick glance at our guys here. Just goofballs goofing around. So, tonight, y'all, tonight, we're just going to be keeping it simple. Talking about accountability. So, we're just going to do one article tonight, do a little chatting, do a little hanging out, and go over a little Terence lecture too. So, the IPCC report. Climate scientists issue survival guide for humanity. This was an interesting article that I wanted to talk about with you guys. Following a meeting in Switzerland, climate scientists have warned the key climate goal will go unmet. In response to the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC released a report the UN chief called a survival guide for humanity. The report published on Monday acknowledged that keeping warming below the landmark 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial times has become increasingly difficult. IPCC urged governments to take stronger actions as current plans are inadequate and will not stop or reduce the impacts of climate change, of changing climate. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, stated that the report was a compilation of efforts by more than 700 scientists and is a how-to guide to defuse the climate time bomb. The report, which is slated to be a closing chapter of the IPCC's sixth assessment, reiterates the results and findings of their reports going back to the 1990s. The warnings are dire, and now the document the clear changes and impacts that result from the previous warnings not being heeded. Since pre-industrial times, the Earth has already warmed by 1.1 degrees Celsius. The global imposed limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius is quickly approaching, yet no country is on target to meet the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal, or the goal commitments made during the climate agreements. To meet the goal, governments will need to cut the emissions in half by 2030. Current goals for wealthier nations outlined by 2050 for them to achieve the carbon neutrality. Finland and Germany have sought to speed up their timeline by reaching carbon neutral status by 2035 and 2045, respectively.
I hope you're doing well out there in
Here's
Facebook
all our
land.
sources, so some mainstream sources there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right.
Narratives. Establishment critical narrative as provided by CNN. Our planet is already showing signs of suffering under the weight of horrible decisions regarding the climate change. To go up one step further, and sealing the fate of a dim future future. Biden greenlit the Willow Project in Alaska. The project will contribute to 9.2 metric tons of polluted, contributing to the warming of the climate annually. China is planning to expand its coal operations as well. The louder scientists try to get with their warnings, the more it seems to go unheard. People around the globe are already suffering from extreme heat, drought, flooding, and other climate attacks. What more is needed to make a change? Pro-establishment's narrative is provided by World Resource Institute. Biden campaigned for the role of POTUS in the back of a very ambitious plan to combat climate change. He's committed the U.S. to cut emissions by 50% by 2030, and so far the U.S. is on track. Other nations worldwide are following the footsteps of the U.S. urgently objective to keep emissions under 1.5 degrees Celsius. The plans are in place, and by and large, the global community knows the clock is ticking. Narrative C has provided the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Climate and environmental loss has been predicted by modern-day doomsdayers for decades. None of the apocalyptic predictions have been true so far, so why would any time be different? What percentage of countries would pledge carbon neutrality by 2050?
I've always been a dreamer. Spend my life
So that's the article, guys. I mean, hot takes here all around. This is what the mainstream media is going to say. So if you watch the news, if you get a lot of your mainstream information, this is what they're saying. Those are the three different narratives you got. The reality is, we live in a corporate environment where these same companies are these big, massive conglomerates and industrial entities are the biggest polluters, and they're the biggest reason for this ecological crisis. So it's about time that we do something about it, guys. Let's get active. Let's do something. Because we're not in a sustainable situation at all. So we're just gonna have a little chat about what I'm doing, and I think everybody can do it. I think it's so simple. That's kind of why I'm doing this channel, is to promote good ideas like this, build a little community where we can all get together and do our little part to save the world. So it starts with the little things. Everything's about the little things, guys. So changing little behaviors, and mainly with that, vote with your dollars. So, number one, change little behaviors. Number two, vote with your dollars. These are the two best ways we can fight against climate change and corporatism and techno-feudalism and all this nonsense that the culture is currently promoting. So. And it's not as hard as you think, I like to stay positive. For as doom and gloom, is a lot of, some of the comrades and, others involved in letting everyone know about the climate catastrophe that we're upon. They like to get a little bit stricter on how we make people aware and recruit people to the cause. But it doesn't have to be like that. We can stay optimistic for all the bad things that we're doing. There's still good people out there. There's still good organizations that are doing what they can to make a difference as well. So here's 4 little things that I do now to combat the climate crisis and ecological omnicide that we're committing as a planet. Remember, guys, it's a finite planet with finite resources. It's as simple as that. So with whatever system of government or type of culture that we have, it's going to have to revolve around that fact. So that being said, we'll start with my favorite behavior here. This is the one that's most important, I think, in our current moment, in our current felt present of immediate experience. We need to start using as little plastic items as possible. In any way, shape, or form, we need to shift away from using plastic. Vote with your dollars. Don't buy plastic stuff. Refrain from anything that oil produces, basically. We don't need to be pulling oil out of the ground. There's other ways to run societies and get energy. Things like coal and oil and all these other means of producing energy for our societies are destroying the planet. So we need to do whatever we can to prevent that from happening. And on a small scale, if you don't have a lot of power, if you don't have a lot of influence, you can do these little things, and that starts with voting with your dollars, number one. Whether it's a single dollar or $10 million, that matters, and changing your behavior. So don't buy plastic. That means, water bottles, all that kind of stuff. Chopped fruit. Guys, buy your own fruit and cut it yourself. Nature provided its own little encasing for the beautiful fruit inside. We don't need to be lazy people and have the grocers or wherever cut this up and put it in plastic for us. It's like little bite size, ready to go right away. The fast food, immediate. The way we look at food needs to change completely in this country. And it starts with that type of behavior. Changing those type of negative, really overwhelmingly. There's nothing good comes from that. Again, and then not only that, your food is sitting in plastic, and it's not good. We're ingesting a lot of that plastic, and it's doing us harm internally as well.
Steve looks great.
Not just to the planet. So. But there's alternatives. Buy other alternatives. Buy companies that use paper to sell their products. Hemp is going to be a huge industrial boom soon with hemp, not just for stuff like that, paper products and industrial type products, but from everything to medicine to all this kind of good stuff. Hemp is the alternative. Hempcrete for building houses. Hemp plastics, once they perfect this method of turning hemp into like a plastic type material, we can just reduce so much waste and so much damage that we're doing to the planet. So that's number one, no plastic. Number two, if you do have plastic or are forced to buy it, recycle it. Come on, guys, this is simple. Recycling's been around for a while. We should all be doing it in some capacity. Just if you have to buy plastic, if you need to buy water bottles, you don't like just having a single solitary refillable water bottle, at least recycle it. And it's not just plastic either. Anything you can't electronics. So much electronic waste ends up all in the ocean. And not only that, even if sometimes if you do donate to the wrong recycling center, it all ends up in a third world country, shipped back across oceans and dumped on their land and ruins their countries and their soil. So be conscientious of what you're doing with your stuff, and what you buy and what you produce, and then how you waste it and get rid of it. So that's the biggest thing, guys. Recycle too. Another little caveat to that: do what I do. I've been an advocate ever since I've been restoring things, mainly furniture, for about 7 years now, and I've been trying to get everybody on the train to try it, to do it. It's super easy. It's fun. You're doing a good thing for the planet by not going out there and buying a brand new product. And if you feel the need to do that, if you're giving a gift to somebody you love, by all means, do that. I'm by no means anti-novelty. Don't purchase anything new. New things do have value, and innovation is good. It's just all things in balance. So if you pair that gift with, say, a gift that you refurbished or restored or refinished, it makes it that much more sentimental too. It's a major form of recycling that people really don't understand. Go thrifting, put a little blood, sweat, and tears into something, spice it up, make it new, and give it as a gift. Sell it on some of these marketplaces that have emerged out of social media and the internet becoming a thing. So that's our big number two. So number one, plastic. Enemy number one, no plastic. Two, recycle. You do have to buy the plastic to recycle in any way you can. Number three, I think the biggest thing we could do with a little behavioral change is go on walks and make them de-trash pickup walks. Get out there and pick up the litter. I know it's not yours, and you may not personally litter, and the point is we just have to dig our heels in the sand, and sometimes you got to pick up other people's trash to save the world and motivate others, and it's little by little. I'm not, we don't all need to pretend to be heroes and get out there and get crazy about it. But I think once an hour a week, pair it up with walking your dog one time a week, or take your kids out for a walk, give them some fresh air and some vitamin D from the sun, and make it fun, make an experience, make it competitive. Give the kids a bag, give yourself a bag, and just try to grab as much trash as you can. It doesn't always have to be in the prettiest of sceneries. any bag of trash picked up is one step closer to a cleaner planet. So every little bit helps. Everything does matter, guys. There is no deed too small. Again, I think it starts with little deeds that grow into big deeds, and little behaviors that will grow into big behaviors of long-term solution to healing the planet. So number 4, and this is probably the biggest one, guys. Know who your enemies are. Know who your enemies are. We do have enemies. Even though we got Cali vibes going on in the chat, and I'm a friendly person, and I'm a cannabis user, and an avid proponent of psychedelics and stuff like that. There are enemies to the human race, to the planet, and every other species on it, and they are insanely greedy, narcissistic, sociopathic/psychopathic personality types, and we have to be able to identify that, call them out, and hold them accountable, because they are the ones contributing the most to the ecological disaster that we're facing. All of us play a little bit of part in it, and that's what tonight. Accountability on a small level, all the way up to the top, is what needs to happen for us to prevent a climate catastrophe on a scale that the human race has never known. I really don't think people understand how severe it is. So the only problem with these big media conglomerates and these big governments and these UN panels and this bureaucracy is that nothing ever ends up getting done, because they're all owned by corporations and big money and people motivated by greed who don't really care about the planet. So again, that's where we come in. We have to be the ones holding them accountable. Do your own research on the companies that pollute the most. Send them emails, light them up on social media, put them on blast, start a war, get active out there, and get political. Send it to your congressman, by mail, however you gotta get to them to hold them accountable. That's one of the other big things here is you inform yourself, use your mind, gain the knowledge, figure out by name what these companies are that are the biggest impactors. Get on the phone, get on the social media, get on email, put them on, in any way possible. Put them on blast, and advocate for other people who are getting screwed over by these companies. Not just these companies' own employees sometimes at the lower levels, but in the case of East Palestine with the train disaster, there's a whole town that's completely devastated by this gigantic chemical release, and Norfolk Sutherland is doing absolutely nothing about it. So we gotta fucking go after those guys. We really do. There's no more screwing around. This podcast is about getting down to the nitty gritties, and let's come together as a community. Let's get excited. Let's get active and hold these companies accountable. And then in ourselves, promote charities that are reputable. And if you do feel the need to donate to them, make sure you do your research, and by all means, get out there and give to these corporations. Give your time, give your money to good, reputable charities that are actually having a positive effect on the environment, instead of mindlessly going about donating dollars to some of these nefarious organizations that don't really have your best intentions in mind, which typically governments and corporations do not. Corporations exist solely for profit, and most governments solely exist to maintain the current corporate economy for those rulers and enforce all the laws. It's a two-pronged attack of how we've run society for it's not really great. That's currently the conditions we have to live within and work within. So that's what we're doing. And you know what? Hopefully each day that goes by, if we continue to change our behaviors and change our thought processes, we're going to move towards a better society and a better world. So, guys, get out there. Like I said, hold these fucking assholes accountable. Again, I found this comment and it really resonated with me. So, in the case of East Palestine, make Norfolk Sutherland pay for every penny of the cleanup and damages suffered. If a company files for bankruptcy, seize it and auctions off its assets. All proceeds going to pay for the cleanup and damages to the families. If that still doesn't cover the cost, seize the assets of every board member on Norfolk Southern at the time of the crash and contribute those to the cleanup. If that still doesn't cover it, any revenues those board members make going forward is immediately seized and paid toward cleanup and the damages until they're paid in full. If they try to flee the country to avoid paying, shoot down the plane. Wink, wink, JK, but you know. I'm done with these slimy fucks enriching themselves and passing the bill on to the taxpayer. And it's so true. Not just passing the bills on to the taxpayer, but passing disease, cancer, ecological, environmental disaster hazard. Everything, and it's everywhere. It's just everywhere in every industry. So again, guys, know your enemy. That's our 4 little behavior changes for today that I think I wanted to go over to motivate all of us to try. So again, try not to buy plastic stuff. Recycle as much as you can. Let's get out there and de-trash and know who your enemies are, guys. So cool. We'll move on to a happier tone. We'll get a little Terence. I like to end all these little live streams with a little bit of a Terence. He's such an eloquent genius. So this one is yeah, Terence, he can put it in a way that I think really is transformative. So, woo! All right, that's enough of the California Honey Drives for tonight. Go ahead and give them a like and subscribe, guys, too. Check out their stuff. They're great musicians. So, again, going back to how we need to shift the way hold these corporate assholes accountable, completely renovate and refinish and refurbish and restore how we run our societies and adjust our culture. So we're in a culture crunch right now. The print created categories of the post-Renaissance are breaking down. We can explore this or deny it or create a mix of exploration and denial that is uniquely expressive of our own hopes and fears. Culture is some kind of a collective hallucination. It's infantile, it's epistemological, cartoon, and it's breaking down. What brings the news that is breaking down are the absurdities that the nimble and fractal edge, the great absurd propositions that have been passed on and reversed and sentimentalized for millennia, like the resurrection and the monotheism and and all this stuff, are now having their false premises illuminated by the cheap goods that are being sold in competition, that cheapen essentially the entire magic show. It's now exposed as a bargain basement of trinket dealing and foolish goods. The wages of civilized existence are now found to be hollow in some way. But I think that people don't want to culturally confront this because they've been told alienation is bad, this is alienation. Well, it's alienation from the insanity is the basic thing. I mean, guys, this is it right here. This paragraph, our consumerist nation hell-bent on destruction and has to stop. The culture has become self-limiting, toxic. This is why it's generating technological antidotes to itself. That's why it's importing things like the psychedelic plants and substances, or Eastern techniques of meditation. In a kind of delirium or a kind of self-review at the end of its existence, it's furiously exporting into the lens of its own self-inspection every text, every drug, every ritual, every method, every cuisine, every language group, every folk dance, every anything. And this reminds me too, guys, go check out Everything Everywhere All at Once. Wonderful movie, beautiful, one of the best films I've ever seen. Can't recommend it enough. Very much aligns with a lot of this stuff. In a frantic effort to find some kind of connecting metaphor, where there isn't a connecting metaphor, of the ordinary and unusual sort. What all these ideologies do, what all ideologies do, guys, this is huge here, hugely important, all ideology, is to provide closure of some sort at the cost of realism. Whatever satisfaction you get from quantum physics or Marxism or Hasidism or any closed system of thought, you need to recognize that the satisfaction is purchased at the cost of realism. And there's this term, willful suspension of disbelief. Well, that's all very fine in the confrontation with art, but in the confrontation with that which claims to be real is a precondition for what we're being led down in the Primrose path. I think the last time we got together, the theme was on how there was two kinds of people, artists and Marx. The only way to relate to the engines of the commodification of ideas and the production of consumer ephemerata is to produce. The only sane position is to produce, because if you're consuming, you are in the victim of this part of this equation. Right here, guys. The only sane position is to produce, because if you're consuming, you are the victim part of this equation. This is the mentality we all need to have. And I realize that we all do also need to consume, but we need to limit how we consume. And as more and more people realize this, the level of artistic content and creativity asymptomatically accelerates. I mean, if we're talking about creation and production, this is the type of content we need to be doing. Art and creative ideas. Okay? It knits together across the interface of evolving fields of knowledge. We are, whether you follow my deeper metaphysical harangues about the presence of an actual mathematical dwell point in the spatio-temporal domain that is sucking us into a kind of black hole of novelty, connectivity, and boundary dissolution, or whether you just, as a rationalist, observe the speed of the acceleration of computer technologies, media technologies, interactivity, data accessibility to the normal person, and so on and so forth. It's very clear from either perspective that social business as usual has been taken off the menu, and that we have unleashed as a collectivity something inside ourselves, call it syntax, call it grammars, appetition for virtual reality, call it the guy in mind. It doesn't matter. Whether you have a bean sprouted vision for it or an extropian vision of it, whatever it is, we have called the human consciousness is moving into a deeper relationship with prosthesis at a faster rate than anything we've known in human history. In a way, it isn't new. Since we've been operating inside virtual realities of a sort. But when the medium is fired clay or steel concrete, the speed at which these things unfold relative to a given human lifespan is such that a weird hallucination of equilibrium and business as usual is maintained. That illusion of business as usual is giving way for us a kind of vertiginous sense that the human unconscious, the morphogenetic field, whatever that is, some kind of protein thing that links us all in an active, not passive mode, is expressing itself through us. My ideas of the alien thing earlier is not from the point of view of scientific rationalism. Not that I don't think the alien is among us, but rather that I think the most foolish among us push forward against the velvet rope with the chattering description of it like sugar-crazed 5-year-olds, and that the cooler heads have to come in and look at this. The alien is where? The alien is in our heads in some way. And then people will say, well, that's the psychic explanation. That's terribly humdrum. No, I don't mean that exactly. I mean that whatever its essence is, I will know it as I know your essence. You will know it as you know my essence, which is entirely as information. So then people say, well, that's some kind of flattening of it. You're making a literally conundrum, etc. No, not that. New technologies, VRML, enhanced reality, all that stuff are showing us that world is information. The world is information. Knowledge is power, guys. So, that being said, keep yourselves informed, you know. Stay active in your communities. Read as much as you can about everything. Especially your hobbies, you know, really dial in and try to become focused on things that you can get really, really excited about. You know, for me and for this channel, I want to get really, really excited about restoring things, reusing stuff, you know, making something new again and giving it an extra lifespan. And I want to restore the planet as well. I really want to get active on making sure that there's a planet around for future generations to have and to hold and to experience the beauty that is life and, you know, the beauty that is existence. And again, the beauty that Terence sees in the psychedelic experience and that I see, and that I think that is another big time solution to helping our culture heal, is to stop being so primitive on and dogmatic on the use of psychedelics. I think it's an incredible thing. Like Terence says, I think if you go through your whole life without experiencing psychedelics, it's the same as going through your whole life without ever having sex. It's literally, it's anti-human. You should definitely look into this stuff and use it in safe quantities. Again, like I said, I'm not a doctor. Do your research on it and consider all the variables. But I do, again, think that that is the way forward. So, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Love you. And like I said, live that growing evolution. Good night, y'all.